The Ukrainians have struck the Tuapse oil terminal of the Russians in the Black Sea, and they've not just hit the infrastructure, but also set several tankers ablaze. But we'll talk about this as well as about anything else that has happened along the front lines and behind them in this SITREP about the war in Ukraine. We have the geolocation of fires that were reported in the past. It's confirmed visually that the Tuapse oil terminal has been hit. A Telegram channel that supposedly is connected to the intelligence agencies is claiming that 3 tankers have been set ablaze. Actually 4 tankers. 4 tankers are supposedly on fire, but the maritime executive is confirming at least 2 of the tankers having been hit. So here we know that the Ukrainians at the very least struck 2 tankers and set them on fire. That's not all. The Ukrainians also struck a gas station in the Black Sea, not a gas station, a gas extraction station in the Black Sea with a naval drone, and at the very least damaged it. We'll switch to the developments along the front line, and I have nothing to report from Sumy. We go directly to Vovchansk, and here we have the Russians advancing on the western side of Vovchansk. We have that geolocated here that the Russians have now reached this area very close to the southern edge of Vovchansk. This is more or less confirmed here on the deep state map that the Russians are now down to this point here. Obviously, if they manage to gain a foothold, then they would threaten the Ukrainian ground lines of communication into the eastern part of Vovchansk. That's it from this area. We have nothing from Veliki Berluk in the Kupiansk area. We have a fresh geolocation of Russian presence in the center of Kupiansk. This is being reported here, geolocated. So the Russians have recently been here where we have the confirmation from the pro-Ukrainian deep state map as well. Further south, the Russians there's no change from the Borova direction, and neither is it from Liman, so I have nothing to report in these directions. In the Seversk direction, we have the Russians advancing probably a tiny bit, like at best 100 meters, probably less, in Vasyukivka. We have that geolocated here at this point, so the Russians have been seen in those houses. Previously, they did not have a foothold in it. It was considered to be contested, but now they might have advanced a little bit to the west here, unconfirmed to which degree they actually managed to consolidate. Further south in the Kostiantynivka direction, the Russians have advanced at Ivanopilia. They actually did a mechanized attack in this direction, which at least in part has failed, but we have the Russian soldier being confirmed in the easternmost buildings of Ivanopilia. So the Russians have entered here and advanced a little bit into Ivanopilia. Whether they still are there is a different question. Then there's a geolocation west of Pleshivka. A Russian soldier is being neutralized with a FPV drone attack at this point. So a single Russian infantryman in this direction. To which degree the Russians are now having a presence there is unclear, but it clearly shows that the Russians aim to cut off the G-lock east of the reservoir here towards the Ukrainian positions in the south. So this was roughly here at this point where a Russian soldier was hit by the Ukrainians. That's it from this direction. We have the Ukrainians advancing in the Dobropilia direction. Here we have the Russians northwest of Pankivka, geolocated. This is at this point here on the deep state map. This is here. So confirmation of the claims by the pro-Ukrainian deep state map. General Syrski also said that the Ukrainian attacks in this direction are going to weaken the Russians. To which degree this can be interpreted is a different question, but obviously the best solution for the Ukrainians would be if they manage to push the Russians back in the north of Mirnograd, but some small advances here won't change the overall dynamics of Pokrovsk and Mirnograd. They would basically basically have to push the Russians back to this line to open up new lines of communication towards the north here to allow for a longer supply of Munograd and Pokrovsk, and whether this is possible is a different question. From the pocket itself, we have the Russians in southern Munograd geolocated at this point. So they are slowly infiltrating into the southern part of Mirnograd. In the Pokrovsk direction itself, in Pokrovsk itself, we have the Russians advancing basically all over the city. We have them here in the northwest, not quite at the northernmost houses, but already advancing further to this point here. So we have them now in the north as well, in the northwest as well. Then we have the Russians in the north itself. We have the Russians in the center of Pokrovsk. We have them in the east. We have them in the southeast as well, and further in the southeast. So when we roughly have them, we have them here, 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 and basically all over the built-up areas of Pokrovsk. Including these areas here. This all does not necessarily mean they have consolidated, but this means that the area that is not contested at this point is shrinking to a low two-digit number of percentage. The Russians are operating almost all over Pokrovsk. Russian soldiers, Ukrainian soldiers have spoken to a Ukrainian outlet about the situation, and they are saying they already said 3 days ago that the Russians are basically controlling 60% of the city, and the situation is dramatic. The Ukrainian drone pilots have to withdraw to not be engaged by Russian infantry, and by now they have problems as the Russians, they have problems striking the Russians while they are infiltrating into the city. Obviously, if the Ukrainians can't fly their drones from this area anymore, hitting the Russians in this area will be significantly more difficult than if the Ukrainians are somewhere here. Or if the Ukrainians have to withdraw to a position like this, hitting the Russians down here will be much more difficult, and thus infiltrating into Pokrovsk itself is getting easier by the day. The Ukrainians are also reporting that the Russians use infantry with low quality to demask and to identify Ukrainian mortar and drone positions to then attack those with better infantry. This is being reported by the Ukrainians. For comparison to the deep state map, I'm taking two pro-Russian maps. This is Suryak, who is using geolocations, but ideologically he's on the pro-Russian side. So we see he identifies this here as under Russian control. We have to see that he does not really make much of a difference between Russian control and Russian presence, having been seen at once. So there is no gray zone in this map. But here you can see that the only area with no Russian presence, according to him, is this part, the easternmost part, and some parts in the very northwest. Other than that, the Russians have, according to him, control over all of this. And this is Krimi Caprice, again, pro-Russian side. And this is what he gives to the Russians, indicating how bad the situation is, at least according to the geolocations. As said, not every position here does mean the Russians have consolidated control and they control everything here and there is no more Ukrainian presence, but it shows us where the dynamic is and where Ukrainian soldiers can already be engaged by Russians. Whether they have consolidated or not doesn't mean much for the Ukrainian who's been ambushed by a Russian soldier who is operating in this area. That's it from Pokrovsk, and that's it with changes along the front line. I have no changes in the Huliapole-Pokrovsk direction over the past 2 days. The Russians clearly are concentrating on Pokrovsk and Mirnograd. There are also reports from Kosty and Dinivka that the Russian attacks have gotten lower, smaller. The Russians clearly reposition and want to get a decision in Pokrovsk and Mirnograd, and we have to say they are getting closer to reaching that point. In the areas of hybrid warfare, we have the reporting of a drone over the Berlin airport. 2 hours, more than 2 hours, the traffic has been inhibited and 11 planes had to be rerouted. And the Belgians are reporting a drone over the Belgian defense minister is reporting a drone over a Air Force base where the F-35 will be used. He said that was a clear reconnaissance mission, so that was a hostile actor, you could probably say. In troop generation from the Russian side, we now have reports that the Russians are using FPV drones that are being launched from Molinia mothership drones, and those are communicating using the cell phone network of the Ukrainians. So they are apparently having Ukrainian SIM cards and are using them to fly in the rear area and communicate with their Russian operators. Then there is a video of a new Russian tank, and this is the extreme to which this war has led tank development, if we want it like this. Those are all metal spikes and obviously a jammer, fully up armored to survive more drone attacks. Those spikes all will obviously lead to premature detonations of the warheads of drones when they engage it, and the bigger the distance is to the target, the less likely a critical position is being hit, and also the effect of the weapon is being reduced. We see that in every direction. We see it, for instance, here in front. There are protective covers for the mine rollers as well, and the tank itself apparently keeps up its ability to operate its main gun. So this is a development from, we see it here, shooting, and we see that there are chains here. So while initially those tanks were built up with metal sheets and basically turning them into some kind of assault gun without real opportunity to turn their turret, here we can see that at least to a limited degree that Russian tank can actually use its main gun while being up armored like this. This was it from this direction. Then we have the Ukrainians. The report is that the US president said in a flight on Air Force One to journalists, so far no Tomahawks for Ukraine. I said it a couple of weeks ago that in my mind, I think that Trump is going to use the Tomahawk, every step of it, extended, trying to get the Russians to the negotiating table again. It will probably come. The Tomahawk will probably come to Ukraine, but it will take a lot of additional months, as Trump will likely use every step along the way, every step along the process to try to force the Russians to the negotiating table. And so far, apparently, after the last report where the US military has signed off on handing over Tomahawks, now they still have not been handed over to the decision from the US president has not been made. But there's still good news. Ukraine has received new Patriot systems, and according to reports, it is a system from Germany. So the Ukrainian air defense is getting better and is receiving reinforcements. The European Union also is in the process of signing off another 1.35 billion euro for Ukraine. Italy is preparing an additional aid package with ammunition and missiles for the SAMPT, the Italo-French air defense system that is put in use by the Ukrainians as well. So Ukrainian air defense will get better, or at least receive additional ammunition soon. But that's it for today's SITREP. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm. If you're new here, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss future videos. This channel is only possible because of the support of viewers like you. If you like to support the channel, you can do so by the means in the description. But that's it from me for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back.